All right, here we go. Welcome back. So, this is part 2 of the Luciferian school system. We're going to go right on into this. And we're going to try to complete this right here and now. Okay? So, previously I left off right here explaining Foster Bailey. And we're talking about St. Francis of Assisi, Theosophy, and we're talking about Alice A. Bailey, right? Okay. She used the Lucis Trust to found the Arcane School, where karma, reincarnation, and divine nature of man were taught. Quote, the Arcane School respects the right of students to hold their own views and beliefs, acknowledging that the only true spiritual authority is that of the student's own soul. That's not going to backfire. Moving on. The materials used in the lesson sets are drawn from a variety of spiritual sources, as well as the esoteric philosophy revealed in the books of Alice Bailey. Okay? Now, the Arcane School is the one that did the I Am temples and the I Am cult, which a lot of celebrities fall into, where they do an album cover and they say, I am. It's because of a verse that said, I am that I am. They're saying that I am God. It's a cult that fundamentally is Luciferian and believes that they can become God by any means necessary. But I'm not even going to go in on the I am cult. I'm going to stick with this. In the discipleship in the New Age. Okay? Stage 2. Quote, having answered these 3 questions in the light of the soul, then say with emphasis, forgetting the things which lie behind, I will strive towards my higher spiritual possibilities. I dedicate myself anew to the service of the coming one, and will do all I can to prepare men's minds and hearts for that event. I have no other life intention. Okay? So, to be her follower, your sole intention is to prepare for the coming one. Who do you think she's talking about when she's talking about the coming one? Again, I can guarantee you she's not talking about Jesus. You see this picture? That's who she's talking about. Quote, the Tibetan has asked me to make clear that when he is speaking of the Christ, he is referring to his official name as head of the hierarchy. The Christ works for all men, irrespective of their faith. He does not belong to the Christian world any more than to the Buddhist, the Mohammedan, or any other faith. There is no need for any man to join the Christian church in order to be affiliated with Christ. The requirements are, and listen to this, the requirements are to love your fellow men, lead a disciplined life, recognize the divinity in all faiths and all beings, and rule your daily life with love. End quote. Now, this is obviously not Christian literature. Okay? This is obviously not Jesus Christ. When they're talking about preparing themselves for the coming one, they're talking about the Tibetan, the Wall Cool. Okay? And more importantly, it's an allegorical religion that believes that there's no such thing as God. Okay? This, by the way, where it says the requirements are to love your fellow man, where it says there's no need for any man to join the Christian church in order to be affiliated with Christ, I'm going to call it like it is. That is Billy Graham doctrine. Not 1950s Billy Graham. I'm talking about later in Billy Graham's life, in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, when they had a receipt for him. And he was saying exactly things like this. Okay? Billy Graham was no C.S. Lewis. So, when we're talking about this coming one, again, this is in context of what the underlying philosophy of the World Core curriculum in the Robert Mueller School was based. Okay, the guy who wrote the World Core curriculum, based on Alice A. Bailey's teachings. Okay, Luciferian teachings, in my opinion. It's clear as day. Now, first of all, he will come to a world which is essentially one world. There we go again with the one world consolidation. What spirit is guiding Alex A. Bailey? In my opinion, it's not Logos. Quote, the major effect of his appearance will surely be to demonstrate in every land the effects of a spirit of inclusiveness. It's hard for me to even read this. It's so disgusting. I'm sorry, y'all. I know I'm biased, but so. Okay. The major effect of his appearance will surely be to demonstrate in every land the effects of a spirit of inclusiveness. The spirit of inclusiveness, man. The inclusiveness which will be channeled or expressed through him. All who seek right human relations will be gathered automatically to him. Whether they are in one of the great religions, world religions or not, all who see no true or basic difference between religion and religion, or between man and man or nation and nation, will rally around him. Those who embody the spirit of exclusiveness and separateness will stand automatically and equally revealed, and all men will know them for what they are. This is a reverse doctrine. This is clearly Babylonian doctrine, Semiramis doctrine. Okay? Semiramis said that the real story of the stars is that one day the Antichrist will come and hand over the power to the serpent. Okay, this is their dogma. When I see this, this is clearly Babylonian dogma. This is clearly not Logos driven. Okay. There will not be any dissociation between the universal church, the sacred lodge of all true Masons, and the inner circles of the esoteric societies. In this way, the goals and work of the United Nations shall be solidified in a new church of God, led by all religions and by all spiritual groups, shall put an end to the great heresy of separateness. Okay. Who are you inspired by when separateness is heresy? That's obviously direct opposition to whatever inspired the person that wrote the story of the Tower of Babel. Obviously. You can argue all day whether or not there's a creator and all this different stuff. Obviously, these are Luciferians. Listen to the words, shall put an end to the great heresy of separateness. That's the open border philosophy. That's the one world order philosophy. That's no sovereign nation philosophy, which is in direct conflict with the creator. Okay, quote, evidence of the growth of human intellect, along with the needed receptive lines, can be seen in the planning of various nations in the efforts of the United Nations to formulate a world plan. From the very start of this unfoldment, 3 occult factors have governed the development of all these plans. Now, just a quick point. At the very top in that first quote, how it says there won't be a dissociation between a universal church, the sacred lodge, and then it says the inner circles of all esoteric societies. That's a clear indication that my assertion that modern day esoteric societies are Luciferian in nature, that corroborates that. In her words. Okay? Here we go with the stages in the externalization of the hierarchy. Just listen to the words, you guys. The externalization of the hierarchy. They're bringing Luciferianism out in articulation. Here we go. Other steps will also be taken in this Department of Religions and of Education, over which the Christ rules, and he will move to restore the ancient spiritual landmarks to eliminate that which is non-essential and to reorganize the entire religious field. Again, in preparation for the restoration of the mysteries. These mysteries, when restored, will unify all faiths. Again, I have asserted for years that these are mystery school religions. And as you can see, these people are not what you think secularism is. These people are highly religious. They're straight up zealot. They're fundamental zealots for Luciferianism. And here it is. The three main channels through which the preparation for the New Age is going on might be regarded as the church, the Masonic fraternity, and the educational field. There it is right there. They're going to use the educational field to bring this Luciferianism into fruition. Okay? I told you I wasn't playing with this shit. And I told you it wasn't what you were going to expect. I haven't even got to the damn schools yet. But this is necessary, you guys. These people are extremely religious, and you have to understand that. Quote, "The day is dawning when all religions will be regarded as emanating from one great spiritual source. All will be seen as unitedly providing the one root out of which the universal world religion will inevitably emerge. Such a world religion is no idle dream, but something which is definitely forming today." Again, when someone like me says they're forming this, I'm not making this shit up. That's straight out of her lips. Straight out of her lips, man. This isn't some dude with a tinfoil hat on the corner saying, "Oh, the Luciferians are coming to get us." This is real shit, y'all. This isn't a game. Okay, now let's go in on this character, who was the one who helped to start Theosophy, which later on would culminate with the amazing works of Alice A. Bailey. Okay? Listen to her quote, her dying words. "Keep the link unbroken. Do not let my last incarnation be a failure." My last incarnation. So that's an indication that she's a further incarnation of Pythagoras and Saint Francis of Assisi. These people aren't what you think secularism is. I don't even know if there's a such thing, to be honest with you. Look at the logo. There is no religion higher than truth. There's two things there. Number one, they're admitting that this is a religion. Number two, they're admitting that knowledge is the core basis of that religion. Gnosis. Why do you think there's a Gnostic cross in the middle of that damn hexagram? I'm going in today. I'm not playing with this shit. You guys, when I talk to the average person and I'm like, "Oh, I don't want my kid to be in the school system. I think it's a Luciferian school system," they look at me like I'm crazy. You guys, I'm not making this up. I'm going in today. Founding of the Theosophical Society in New York City by 1875 by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, Henry Steele Olcott, and William Quan Judge, a Russian aristocrat. Blavatsky immigrated to the United States in 1873. It can be traced to ancient Gnosticism and Neo-Platonism. Okay? Theosophical views have been held by Rosicrucians, another mystery school, and by speculative Freemasons, another mystery school. It's the same old Luciferian mystery schools over and over. Remember this quote right here? The inner circles of the esoteric societies, they're admitting it's all the same nonsense. They're not saying nonsense, of course, but they're admitting it's all the same crap. It's fundamentally and allegorically the same. That's why I started this presentation out with allegory and religion. Okay? The international New Age movement of the 1970s and 80s originated among independent theosophical groups. And I'm going to show you the guy that started the New Age movement. Spangler, whatever his name is. Okay, the secret doctrine. Listen to the words, you guys. Words mean things, okay? Especially when you have authors that really believe in the power of words, you need to look closer at what their words are. Not everybody just spews out random shit. These people, when she writes and authors this book, The Secret Doctrine, there's a reason why. Okay, these people are evil potentially, but they're not stupid. All right, in an intellectual sense. All right, high IQ doesn't equate to intelligence always. All right. She became interested in occultism and spiritualism, and for many years traveled extensively throughout Asia, Europe, and the United States. She also claimed to have spent several years in India and Tibet studying under Hindu gurus. So this is where you get all this Eastern mysticism tied into all this mystery school babbling. No pun intended. In 1873, she went to New York City, where she met and became a close companion of Henry Steele Olcott. Okay? You guys, I could spend hours on Helena Blavatsky. I could spend hours teaching you about the Thule Society and the branch of mystery schools that Hitler followed. Hitler was a theosophist. Okay? I could go on and on with this shit, but I'm not doing that right now. I'm sticking to what I'm sticking to. This is based on school. Now, modern theosophists claim that all world religions contain such an inner teaching, and much attention is devoted to deciphering the meaning concealed in sacred text. So they go and try to use their lens to read ancient texts. They're bastardizing ancient texts. Theosophical Society has been very influential. The society not only pioneered the promotion of Eastern thought in the West, but also inspired the creation of more than 100 esoteric religious movements, including the Alice A. Bailey movement, Arcane School, the I Am movement, which I referenced earlier, which your favorite celebrities probably part of, the Church Universal and Triumphant, and the Liberal Catholic Church. I'm airing these people out, dude. Here we go. At Olcott's death in 1907, he was succeeded as president by Annie Besant, who led the International Society for the next quarter century. And again, later on, it would be Alice A. Bailey who would take it to a whole nother level. It's the same person here, Annie Besant, British social reformer, sometime Fabian socialist, theosophist, and Indian independence leader. The immediate replacement in society, then Alice A. Bailey, Muller's inspiration. Okay, so all that's saying is it passed hands into her and then it went to Alice A. Bailey. Okay? All different incarnations of this spirit of Pythagoras and St. Francis of Assisi and blah, 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 blah. She was an early advocate of birth control. Shocking. In the late 1880s, she became a prominent Fabian socialist under the influence of George Bernard Shaw. Finally, in 1889, she was converted to the doctrines of the Russian-born religious mystic Helena Blavatsky. I'm going to go right into David Spangler. This is the guy that started in 1970, I'm going to start with the bottom one. In 1970, American theosophist David Spangler moved to the Feinhorn Foundation, where he developed a fundamental idea for the New Age movement. He believed that the release of the new waves of spiritual energy signaled by certain astrological changes, e.g. the movement of the earth into a new cycle known as the Age of Aquarius, which the movement of the earth is a lie, but that's another story, had initiated the coming of the New Age. He further suggested that people use this new energy to make manifest in the New Age. Spangler's perspective demanded an active response and shifted responsibility for the coming of the New Age to those who believed in it. Look at the title of this guy's book. Reflections on the Christ. And somebody who is totally not anywhere close to realizing what theology is or what the Bible is might even think that this is some sort of Christian pamphlet. Now look, Quote, Lucifer comes to give us the final gift of wholeness. If we accept it, then he is free and we are free. This is the Luciferic initiation. It is one that many people now and in the days ahead will be facing, for it is an initiation in the New Age. They're telling us straight up that you're going to have to be Luciferian to go into the future. They're telling us. Okay, this is James Warburg, German-born American banker. He was well known for being the financial advisor to Franklin Roosevelt, who was a major communist, of course. His father was banker Paul Warburg, member of the Warburg family and father of the Federal Reserve System. Now, obviously, he's not the only father of the Federal Reserve System. You got the Rothschilds and a handful of other people, okay? Warburg wasn't the only one on Jekyll Island that day drawing up the Fed Reserve. But James P. Warburg, addressing the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations February 17, 1950, quote, we shall have world government whether you like it or not, if not by consent, by conquest. I'm telling you guys, this isn't a game. Now we'll move on to Chisholm, and we'll bring it back into Huxley's and them. It was Chisholm who proposed the name World Health Organization. Okay? To achieve world government, it is necessary to remove from the minds of men their individualism, loyalty to family traditions, national patriotism, and religious dogma. There's the four pillars they have to destroy in order to bring this world government. Nationalism, the family, individualism, and religion. Is it any wonder why they're launching an assault on all four of those things? It isn't just people like me, paranoid. Straight from his lips, that's what they're doing. Okay? Now I'm about to expose psychotherapy in one paragraph. Okay? The reinterpretation and eventually eradication of the concept of right and wrong, which has been the basis of child training, the substitution of intelligent and rational thinking for faith in the certainties of the old people. These are the belated objectives of practically all effective psychotherapy. This dude's admitting that they brought psychotherapy to shatter your concept of right or wrong. Whoa. Excuse me. Crazy. Okay, UNESCO overlooks the education department of the United Nations, of course. Archibald MacLeish, Illuminist, Mason, Skull and Bones member, which is basically blah, 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 he's a Luciferian, who wrote the UNESCO Constitution. Quote, if UNESCO is attacked on the grounds that it is helping to prepare the world's people for world government, then it is an error to burst forth with apologetic statements and denials. Let us face it, the job of UNESCO is to help create and promote world citizenship. When faced with such a charge, let us by all means affirm it from the housetops. End quote. Again, when I'm saying that we have a Luciferian school system that's preparing people for the New World Order, people look at me like I have three heads. Julian Huxley, which we know is if you watch my eugenics presentation, the Huxleys are they're on the Mount Rushmore of eugenics. Okay, that's a whole nother thing. Go watch my eugenics thing if you're interested in that. Julian Huxley, Aldous' brother, was the first director. 1962 Humanist of the Year, member of the Communist Bureau, signatory on the Humanist Manifesto, and the Colonial Bureau of British Fabian Society, however you say that. Colonial Bureau of British Fabian Society, okay? Quote, became a fellow of the Royal Society, which is a precursor to the modern day media. They're the ones that ran science. Let me say this again. Became a fellow of the Royal Society. He is perhaps best known among biologists for coining the term evolutionary synthesis, to refer to the unification of taxonomy, genetics, and Darwinian theory in the 40s. He was the first director general of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, in 1946 to 48. He was knighted in 1958. This is obviously a connected man. Okay? Quote, its education program can stress the ultimate need for world political unity and familiarize all the people with the implications of the transfer of full sovereignty from separate nations to a world organization. But, more generally, it can do a great deal to lay the foundations on which world political unity can later be built. And if you're interested in reading his work, I have a picture of it in the background. It's called Its Purpose in Philosophy. Okay? The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Okay? Quote, accordingly, although political unification in some sort of world government will be required for the definitive attainment of this stage, unification in the things of the mind is not only necessary, but can pave the way for other types of unification. So he's admitting that the mind is another obstacle. How do you change the mind? Education. This is a presentation on education, after all. Again, I know it wasn't what you were expecting. I know it has a lot of religion in it. It's not my fault these people are so damn religious, okay? And again, a lot of these things that I've laid out are rabbit holes. I could spend 20 hours on each one of them. But I'm trying to keep this succinct because it's about education. Now we'll go right into the UNESCO handbooks. Okay? In Volume 1, page 5. One of the chief aims of education today should be to prepare boys and girls to take an active part in the creation of a world society, end quote. Do you notice a pattern? Okay. This preparation should include not only the acquisition of skills, but more particularly, the formation and development of psychological attitudes favorable to the construction, maintenance, and advancement of a united world. They're trying to shape your psychology for this. I'm not bullshitting you. This isn't some weirdo making this shit up, y'all. I'm going straight to the horse's mouth. The role which education will play officially must be conditioned essentially by policies established by the State Department, ministries of foreign affairs in other countries, and UNESCO. You hear that? The State Department. I'm gonna expose and prove to you that that's a communist invention. Coming up here in a minute. That's straight up communism. Straight up. Public schools funded by the government. Government-run institutional education is definitely a communist, and it goes back to the Republic by Plato. That's how it was laid out by him. It's not a coincidence that the Republic was used as a basis for the Constitution of Russia and the damn Communist Manifesto itself. Okay, moving on. Volume 2. The development of mature individuals who know how to share in group living and raise its quality has its effects on efforts towards the attainment of a world society. Notice a pattern? Carnegie Foundation, American Friends Service Committee, John Foster Dulles. Oh, Carnegie. That's for another time. Quote, our children should be educated to live with others and prepare themselves for citizenship in a world society, end quote. Quote, there remain certain attitudes to be created if we are to achieve success in making our children world-minded. Again, I say, do you notice a pattern? Get some water. Hopefully I'm not getting the hiccups. As we have pointed out, it is frequently the family that infects the child with extreme nationalism. Okay, listen to that word, infects. They're saying that you're infecting your child with your philosophy. Let's read it again. As we have pointed out, It is frequently the family that infects the child with extreme nationalism. The school should therefore use the means described earlier to combat family attitudes. Listen to these words. Infects, combat, attitudes. If you don't have a problem with that, there's something wrong with you. Especially if you have kids. If you don't have kids and you're just falling down a hole of nihilism, then so be it. But if you have kids, that should piss you off. Okay? Volume 10. We can do things in the classroom that will make the teacher a model to pupils. Once we get the passion for world unity, it should become a day-by-day thing, almost a religion. I'm not playing with this shit, okay? This is a book that you must get if you're interested in the education system, okay? In the Presence of Our Enemies, A History of the Malignant Effects of the American Schools on UN's UNESCO, okay? Florence pointed to Huxley's 1948 statement in UNESCO's purpose. Thus, even though it's quite true that any radical eugenic policy will be for many years politically and psychologically impossible, it will be important for UNESCO to see that eugenic problem is examined with the greatest care, and that the public mind is informed of the issues at stake, so that much now is unthinkable may at least become thinkable. This is crazy, you guys. And yes, I did put this in my eugenics presentation. Because as you can listen, when they say what is now unthinkable may at least become thinkable, that's brainwashing. How is it not? How is it not brainwashing? You gotta look at the words. It says, will be for many years politically and psychologically impossible. Unthinkable to thinkable. This is propaganda, you guys. It's gonna take propaganda to change people's minds. It's gonna take education to change people's minds. Okay? Huxley had come to the States after UNESCO's executive board, which included the USSR and Polish communists, had issued a directive months before, June 1959, to the effect, quote, the Director General will recommend member states concerned that a symposium be arranged to mark the 100th anniversary of the publication of the first edition of Charles Darwin's Origin of the Species, which is total hogwash. As a coincidence of this directive from UNESCO, the University of Chicago with the Atheistic Human Advance Committee set up the symposium. Among the then 100 members of UNESCO National Commission were such notable lefties as Brock Chisholm, Bertrand Russell, Kilpatrick, Mark Starr, Maurice Vischer, Paul Blanchard, and S.I. Hayakawa. Okay? And again, quote, the kindergarten or infant school has a significant part to play in the child's education. Not only can it correct many of the errors of home training, but it can also prepare the child for membership at about the age of 7 in a group of his own age and habits, the first of many such social indications that he must achieve on his way to membership in the world society. There it is. They're preparing our children for world society, you guys. And I'm not just making that shit up. Moving on. Of course it was a Democrat, but moving on. Republicans are just as crap. The Republicans are part of this too. That being said, fundamental, Bible-believing people do not have the right to indoctrinate their children in their religious beliefs because we, the state, are preparing them for the year 2000, when America will be part of a one-world global society and their children will not fit in. You still think I'm making this shit up? They wanted to have this shit done by 2000. They wanted the world core curriculum done by 2000, as I showed in part 1. Okay? You think this guy sympathizes with the Republic and communism? This is Sikis, who was telling children that pornography is a great tool to use. Okay? The Sexuality Information and Education Council of the United States, ensuring equitable access to high-quality sexual health care services. Now, high-quality sex healthcare services address the knowledges. I'm not going to read all this, but if you want, you can come back, pause, and read it. Okay? High-quality sexual healthcare services include a full range of confidential sexual and reproductive health services that take into account the complex, multi-layered interactions between race, ethnicity, gender, and socioeconomic status and include cultural messages. Okay? Let's keep going. Confidential counseling, screening and counseling for domestic and interpersonal violence, safe, affordable, and accessible contraceptive and abortion services, pre- and postnatal care, adoption services, and assisted reproductive technologies, and the provision of contraceptive education, counseling, and affordable services for the prevention of pregnancy, HIV, and other STIs, including condoms and emergency contraception to all people regardless of gender or sexual orientation. High-quality sex care services are coordinated in one setting and address sexual health promotion for all individuals and address typical barriers and gaps. Okay, you get the picture. So Sikis is the one that said that pornography can be a great tool for children to use for curbing birth rates. Okay, that's sick, you guys. Porn blinds people. Porn is one of the most destructive forces on this planet right now. If you're watching porn, you're blind. Seriously. Do you realize that the women in those videos are sex trafficked? Okay? That's a weapon being used against you to keep you blind. That's all I'm going to say about that. Excuse me. Now, back to Dag Hammarskjöld, who built the meditation room in the UN in the center of the building in the shape of a trapezoid and said, trapezoid, which is a whole nother thing. Trapezoid is a Satanist thing. That's a whole nother thing. Quote, the stone in the middle of the room has more to tell us. We may see it as an altar, empty. Who sees it as an altar? Sorry. We may see it as an altar, empty, but not because there's no God. Not because it's an altar to the unknown God, but because it's dedicated to the God whom man worships under many names and many forms. That seems innocuous in itself. But then, a meeting of the light of the sky and the earth. It is an altar to the God of all. We want this massive altar to give the impression of something more than temporary. Okay? So, you have a one world religion being set up, a one world temple that is based out of St. John Divine's Cathedral. These people are building a one world religion. Okay? This is obvious to me. I'll leave that at that. This is a big one, you guys. Look at this weirdo, Henry Steele Commager. So, not many people know about this. January 30th, 1976, a document called the Declaration of Interdependence was introduced to Americans by Henry Steele Commager and signed by 124 traitors, 32 senators, and 92 representatives. Quote, 2 centuries ago, our forefathers brought forth a new nation. Now we must join with others to bring forth a new world order. Still think it's tinfoil hat shit? Here we go. Briefly on Hitler's new order. Quote, National Socialism will use its own revolution for the establishing of a new world order. End quote. And in Rauschening's book, Quoting Hitler, National Socialism is more than a religion. It is the will to create Superman, end quote. That is obviously a quote on eugenics. Quote, he who has seen in socialism only a political movement has seen nothing, end quote. You see, socialism is a means to an end, but that's for another day. This book right here is an excellent start. It's basically just a ton of quotes. I think I read it in like one day. Very easy to read, very entry level, direct quotes and citations, okay? And remember, Brock Chisholm, to achieve world government, it's necessary to remove from the minds of men individualism, loyalty to family tradition, national patriotism, and religious dogmas. Is it any coincidence that, like I said, that there's a war on all four of those things? It's not paranoia when someone like me says there's a war on the family. Okay? This is straight out of their lips. Quote, listen to the words, you guys. Quote, there's no salvation for civilization or even the human race other than the creation of a world government, end quote. I don't know how he had time to write that in between underage hookers, but he did. What a piece of crap that guy was. He got ran out of Berlin when they crushed the LGBT that originated in Berlin. And he got ran out right with them. Otherwise, he would have stayed there the rest of his life messing with underage hookers. That's a horrible man right there. I'm not even going to go in on Einstein right now. That's a whole nother thing. Now, some people, when you read their information and you read what they say, you can tell they're aligned with their creator. This is just my opinion. This is somebody aligned with his creator, C.S. Lewis. This isn't a wolf in sheep's clothing like Billy Graham or one of those people. This man clearly knew what the hell he was talking about. So thank you, C.S. Lewis. Seriously. And thank you for thanking us. Watch this. Hitherto, the plans of the educationalists have achieved very little of what they attempted, and indeed, we may well thank the beneficent obstinacy, man, I can't even read, I need to up my game, of real mothers, real nurses, and above all, real children, for preserving the human race in such sanity as it still possesses. You hear that? So, he's basically saying, if you're a real mom and taught your child belief in the creator and didn't allow them to be corrupted by the educationalist, didn't allow them to be corrupted by what Huxley wanted your kids to be corrupted by, he's thanking you personally for preserving the human race. There's a lie and a spell, a very powerful spell that has been spread, and it's you're only one person, so there's nothing you can do. If you are a mom or a dad and you've done the right thing, nobody can take that from you. No one. Okay? No one can take from you what you've done. You've helped preserve the human race. C.S. Lewis thanks you, I thank you, and I thank C.S. Lewis for not being a coward. Okay, thank you again, C.S. Lewis, for that. That's power. Aldous Huxley, quite the opposite. This is a man who was totally severed from his creator. Okay? Now, this is his speech at Berkeley, you guys. California Medical School, right? Tavistock Group. That's a whole nother story. Tavistock Group of Human Relations are the ones that shape the morals of America. That's a whole nother thing. Quote, there will be, in the next generation or so, a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude and producing dictatorship without tears, so to speak. Producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies so that people will in fact have their liberties taken away from them, but will rather enjoy it because they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing, or brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods. And this seems to be the final revolution. Tell me his words didn't come true. Tell me he's lying. Tell me he's lying about that. I'll let you figure that out. Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. This is a classic quote. Again, true. You can't blame these bastards when they're accurate. Quote, in the end, they, the people, will lay their freedom at our, the controller's feet, and say to us, make us your slaves, but feed us. Dang. That's socialism in a nutshell, by the way. But if you want to preserve your power indefinitely, you have to get the consent of the ruled. And this they will do partly by drugs, as I foresaw in Brave New World, partly by these new techniques of propaganda. So he's backing up this right here, what he was saying here, okay? They will do it by bypassing the sort of rational side of man and appealing to his subconscious and his deeper emotions. Excuse me. And his physiology even. And even so, making him actually love his slavery. I mean, I think this is the danger that actually people may be, in some ways, happy under the new regime. But they will be happy in situations where they oughtn't to be happy. And of course, anybody that tries to wake them up out of that, they'll say, why are you being negative? What a trap that people are in. Feel bad for those people. Now, this is huge, you guys. U.S. District Court Judge Melinda Harmon. Okay, this is her official ruling, you guys. This is back in the 90s when a family was suing the Department of Education or whatever over something that happened at school or something they were teaching them, or they were teaching them about philosophy or consciousness, whatever the hell it was, right? Excuse me. This is what they officially ruled. Remember, this is case law. You've got law, and then you got case law that interprets the law, right? This is the interpretation. Parents give up their rights when they drop off the children at public school. There's her ruling. You officially give up your rights when you drop your kid off at that public state-run school. This is damning right here for anybody on the fence about taking their kid to public school. You give up your rights. This is what Melinda Harmon, U.S. District Court judge, ruled. Parents give up their rights when they drop off the children at public school. If that's not a red flag, there's something wrong with you. I gotta call it like it is. Let's go. Now, for public schools literally being a communist design, and I'm not joking. Principles of Communism, Frederick Engels, 1847. 8. Education of all children, from the moment they can leave their mother's care, in national establishments at national cost. Education and production together. Now, when obviously public school system is a communist design. Engels and Marx, who wrote the Communist Manifesto, based it on the Republic of Plato. I've read the Republic by Plato myself as well, and it's the same thing there. He wants the state to raise the children. They don't even want people raising their own kids. They want a random pool of breeders, and for you to be raising a random kid that's not even your own, and to break the bond of mother to child, because that destroys what people controlling things are trying to do. I'm not making this up. Go read it yourself. Bam. The Communist Manifesto itself, the 10 chief planks. Number 10. Free education for all children in public schools. I rest my case on this being a communist design. Straight up. It's a communist design, our school system. I'm showing you. I'm not just randomly saying, oh, we have a communist school system. I'm showing you. It's not cliche when people, I'm not some fucking Republican that says, oh, get these commies out of here. I don't like the Republicans either. They are neocons. They're the new Bolsheviks, basically, the Republican Party. Okay? For those of you that have seen either my LGBT presentation or my eugenics presentation, this is from the Second Congress of the original LGBT movement created by Magnus Hirschfeld. Okay? This is from their Congress, the Second Congress, when they actually drew up a constitution for their LGBT movement. It wasn't called LGBT back then, but this is their original chief planks and constitution, right? Number 10, systematic sexual education is actually part of the LGBT movement. And for those of y'all that watch my other presentations, number 4 is race betterment by the application of the knowledge of eugenics. Eugenics and the LGBT agenda go hand in hand. So does our communist-run one world order school system. Systematic sexual education. You mean like this? Rockland School Board okays textbooks with LGBT figures after a heated late-night debate. They were up past midnight, you guys, protesting this, families, and they still passed the law. This is 2 screenshots from the actual curriculum. They're rewriting history, you guys. I'm not saying that Harvey Milk wasn't gay. That's obviously stupid. What I'm saying is they're going to backfile history. They actually passed an act to do it. This is propaganda, plain and simple, as taught in the original LGBT Constitution, number 10, systematic sexual education. Isn't that funny? Number 10 of the Communist Manifesto was also free education for all children in public schools. Now I have to say something that's accurate, and that might piss some people off. So, Muslim parents protest against LGBT curricula at elementary school. This school was like 90% Muslim. They had to shut it down for a while because the Muslims actually showed up and protested the LGBT curriculum and took their kids out of school. Meanwhile, Christian churches are flying rainbow flags in front of their church. Okay? This is not a minor thing. All right? When you stand up and protect children, that goes a long way with me. A long way. These Muslims might be more Christian than the Christians are. When you protect children like that, like I said, you can talk shit about Muhammad and peace be upon him. You can talk crap about he had a young wife. You could talk crap about all this stuff. I don't ascribe to Islam and subscribe to it, and it's not my religion, but I do respect it. How am I supposed to respect the Christian church when they're waving a pride flag in front of their church? How am I supposed to respect that? It's time to tell the truth today, all right? It's time to tell the truth today. This the straight pride organizer says pride has been stolen by Satan and all that. Obviously, Christians are fighting back. Okay, this wasn't a dig saying that there's no Christians doing anything. I'm saying it to make a point on a bigger scale. Okay. She says, I watched the dumbing down, if you will, of my nation as a young Christian. I was concerned on what was going on in our society. Okay. Let's see, the part includes attacking the LGBTQ community while claiming heterosexuality, God-ordained nuclear families, masculinity, femininity, babies, Western civilization, Caucasians, which is a very weird thing to put in there because Caucasians are not technically white people. Caucasians are Asiatics that came down to the Caucasus Mountains. If that's her belief, that's her belief. But I disagree with that. I still put it in. Oops. I'm going ahead of myself. Maryland banned a school from the voucher program over anti-LGBT views. It says that it violates religious freedom. Again, remember the chief plank? Number 10, systematic sexual education. This is the constitution of the LGBT movement right here from 1928. I totally aired out the origins of the LGBT in a presentation. It's like 2.5 hours or less. Okay. New Jersey law forcing schools to teach LGBT history is about indoctrinating students, critics say. New Jersey mayor calls teaching LGBT history in schools an affront to Almighty God, urges fight against new law. You guys, I've been warning people about this for 10 years. 10 years I've known about all this stuff, man. 10 years. At least. I was well versed in this stuff 10 years ago. All right? Now, Harry Potter. For anybody that has kids in school knows what Scholastic is. It is the premier book service for like education across the country. Okay? They have an entire Wizarding World of Harry Potter section on their website. Okay? And I'm not going to lecture anybody on Harry Potter. It does have real witchcraft spells in it. And you may be insane if you allow your kids to watch it and deal with it, but that's on you. Everybody has their own shit with their kids, okay? You have your own battles to pick. I've already conceded on certain things, okay? But something like this is something I won't concede on. Is Dumbledore gay? Why J.K. Rowling's continual character revisionism is getting old. See, they try to pull a fast one and try to have her, like, in a Mandela effect way, try to backfile her characters to be gay. But, ironically, nerds hate when you blaspheme their scripture. Which is really ironic. So even the nerds, who might even be atheists and whatever they are mad at her for doing this. And so is anybody with a soul. Rowling taught her readers to embrace an open, progressive society. A decade later, it's time she followed her own advice. Give me a break. ACLU, which is basically a terrorist organization. ACLU asked court to dismiss the challenge to Williamston School's LGBT policy. They're trying to clamp down. Education department agrees to take up anti-trans complaint from girl athletes. It's nonsense, you guys. Notice the sweatshirt this kid's wearing. ACLU. Transgender teen student who sued school board gets major federal court win years after he graduated. Yuck. And this is winding down, you guys. I'm almost done with this. I might do another part of the series in a future time, but this is it for now. I'm just doing a 2-part series, okay? This is Target, you guys. Target stores donate $100,000 to LGBT nonprofit that promotes inclusive K-12 schools. They're promoting sodomy and child abuse in Target. And Target is giving money to LGBT schools. This is insane, you guys. Talking to children about promoting sodomy to children? Are you insane? They have no soul, you guys. K-12 schools bringing in drag queens to teach gender ideology. Drag Queen Story Hour gave my first graders a fun and interactive platform to talk and think about social and emotional issues like acceptance, being yourself, and loving who you are, Hernandez said. During our debrief, and this is disturbing, you guys. During our debrief, students were preaching the incredible, look at the words, you guys, preaching. During our debrief, students were preaching the incredible lessons they had learned, like it's okay to be different, and there's no such thing as boy and girl things. So, Not only are they using brainwashing, it's working. Children are coming away saying, oh, there's no such thing as boy and girl things. I can barely talk about this, you guys. I can barely get through this, dude. I'm not going to lie. I can barely get through this, you guys. The event allows preschool children to deepen and complicate their ideas about gender at the exact age when they're often developing rigid ideas about the concept, Green said. They're intentionally doing it right at the critical time. I've never seen something this demonic in my lifetime. Ever. I've never witnessed open child abuse like this. This is absolutely insane. Okay? Someone could have predicted this coming in 1928. Now, this is probably the last picture I got on here, but as you can see, be who you are. How couldn't you? Be who you are. Look at this demonic shit, you guys. Do I really need to explain this? Look at this son of... Look at this. I didn't notice this. Look at this dude. Put this guy's face on the dictionary under cuck. Yuck. What the fuck is a man doing there allowing this? Oh my gosh. Put this guy's face on the dictionary, please. Under cuck. You gotta be kidding me, man. When men won't stand up for children, we have fallen, you guys. We have. People have complained a long time, like, oh, the society is declining. People have said things like that forever, as long as there's been humans. You guys, when men won't stand up to protect children, we have fallen. It's non-debatable. I'm going to end it with Stalin. If you went through the American education system, you probably don't even know anything about Stalin and the tens of millions of people he killed because of socialism and communism. Tomato, tomato, right? Education is a weapon whose effect depends on who holds it in his hands and at whom it is aimed. All right? He also said, death is the solution to all problems. No man, no problem. This communist regime exterminated tens of millions of people, most of whom were Christian, by the way. So, if he's saying, and I agree with him on this, again, evil people aren't necessarily dumb. Education is a weapon whose effect depends on who holds it in his hands and at whom it is aimed. So we clearly have two things. We have two things to answer, okay? Number one, who is it being aimed at? Well, that seems to be pretty easy. Obviously, the children of America, and not just the children of America, but the children of the world, whoever the 50-something countries in the UN are that are under the education department, okay? That the World Core Curriculum goes out to. So, the answer to number one is, who is it being aimed at? The children of the world. Who has it in their hands? And who's doing the aiming is question number two. The School of Lucifer, aka the American Education System, Europa, United Nations, UNESCO, SICUS, Communism, One World Order, LGBT, the State, the Hegelian Dialectic, St. John's Cathedral, Freemasonry, World Core Curriculum, Theosophy, Lucifer Publishing Company, and the Declaration of Interdependence signed by a bunch of traitors. Thank you, guys.